talk about a disappointing day for majority of the practice on the offensive side of the ball right after this.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on three. 1, 2, 3. Dominate.
What is up, faithful? Welcome back to Clutch Gene Sports and Rohan's channel. Shout out to everyone for being in the house today. Rohan, does not sound like good things happened today at camp, my man. It sounded like a lot of bad quarterback play. The defense dominated the day. Now, before I ask you how things went,
Oh no.
I'm gonna keep it 100 in the sense of I want things reported for all players the same, right? And for me, I think it's interesting because I noticed something and I documented this and I took screenshots, but I'm not the kind of person to call people out on social media. But during OTAs and minicamp was Trey Lance's first day back from serious injury, right?
Mhm.
Throwing starts with the feet. The way it was reported on his first day back was as if he was 100% healthy, does not matter about the ankle injury, no surgery happened. So I'm expecting things to be reported the same way by media, content creators, and stuff like that. Not necessarily anyone in particular, but for me, I noticed a lot of people on Twitter, whether it was media, content creators, sugarcoating things about Brock Purdy. And to me, that's where I was confused. I'm like, wait, I get it's his first day back, but when Trey Lance had his first day back a few months ago from a serious ankle surgery, you guys made sure to point out every missed throw. They called out the play of the game, a play of the day was a pick six, and how he looked terrible. But then we see Brock Purdy throw a pick six on his first day back. Him
On
have
his second
no
throw, that was two.
second throw. So a lot of things happen, and it's like, well, he overthrew 5 40-yard passes. So I'm very curious on what you saw, and so you could go straight to it, but I'm very curious on what you say, and if I stop you, my bad, but I'm gonna probably stop you a few times during the show and during the thing to have a good dialogue.
Yeah, and I mean, one of my tweets that I said was Brock Purdy bounced back in the second half of practice for an all right day, but he was inconsistent. Both him and Sam Darnold were up and down today. Trey Lance struggled. That was some of what I saw today, and really my thoughts that I outlined right there on the timeline, kind of overall, talking about the different ways that I judged today's quarterbacks was specifically kind of about how what like specifically about certain throws and how it ended up playing out. Again, remember this is training camp. This is a non-padded training camp, and there are pretty much 20 snaps maximum that a quarterback will get. Brock Purdy got, I think, 20 to 21 snaps today. That's the maximum that they get. It's not like this is a huge sample size that, holy cow, this player was terrible today, missed 50 throws or something like that. No, we're talking about 2 of 5, 3 of 7, 2 of 5, right? it's it's a it's a tough day, but you're missing 3 throws. That's kind of the outlook of it. But starting off on what I saw, I here's the way that I look at it. Right, last offseason when Trey Lance was in his first year as a starter, I viewed my practice reports a little lighter on him and specifically wrote that it was because he's getting acclimated in and it's his first year. Whereas if it was Jimmy Garoppolo, I would have had it in a different light, understanding the background that Jimmy Garoppolo has. And so it's a similar approach today, but it also, when you talk about that similar approach, it's important to at least identify what exactly happened and then involve the similar approach. That's the way that I report things. And so that's why I said early on it was a tough day for Brock Purdy to start. His first throw, he missed Ross Dwelly too far out in the flat. It was a off-target throw. Dwelly got one hand on the ball. Some could consider that a drop. I don't, and I don't think many other people did. It was just too far out in front. That was his lone throw on the first set of offensive plays. His second throw was probably the ugliest throw of the day from any quarterback. Purdy got pressure from the right side from Drake Jackson, who was left untouched. It was a play action play, it seemed at least. A puller came through. A puller blocked Drake Jackson, but Purdy looked to fire to his backside. Did not see either of the two defenders in the area. It was a double coverage throw. Purdy looked to find Brandon Ayuk on a throw, but Deommodore Lenoir was in front of him on the play near the sideline about 10 yards, and Tashawn Gibson easily broke on the play for a pick six. That was the first play of that drive, first play of that second drive for Brock Purdy.
And so, did Brock have the opportunity to step up into the pocket or anything like that? Because I know that's something he struggled on. And so, it's a question I have to ask: is did he have the opportunity to step up into the pocket? Because I know you said a free runner was coming.
Now, I will say this. He did, and he did a little bit. But the issue today, and you'll hear this about a reoccurring theme from the defensive line, they had a good blitz attack for rushing. Drake Jackson or whoever the defensive end was able to flush Purdy into the pocket, and the biggest threat was not from the exterior, but from the interior. Javon Hargrave, guys like him and Javon Kinlaw were able to push defenders back, and that leaves a moneyed pocket. And so that's the tough part. I'd say defensive line got the better of the offensive line in pass protection today. That is tough considering the 49ers were a full go on the offensive line. Trent Williams practiced today. Colton McKivitz practiced today, all the entire offensive line practiced today, and no Nick Bosa. So it was Drake Jackson and a combination of Cleveland Farrell, Austin Bryant, and Kerry Hyder as the starting defensive end. Solid day for Drake Jackson and Austin Bryant, who is making waves and saw first-team reps today for the first time after Farrell took all of them yesterday. But let's stay on the quarterbacks.
Is it fair to say that because there's something that I noticed about Brock Purdy, right? He struggles to step up into the pocket and deliver from the NFL pocket. Did that in college as well. He preferred to be farther back, preferred to be able to scramble around. So you're saying like he kind of stepped up, but there was a tweet because I'm at work during the time or currently so everything. There's a tweet you tweeted out, and I was like, okay, well, I thought the numbers and everything were to come out better, but during the I don't know if it was after practice, before practice, but it was. You tweeted out Brock Purdy bounced back in the second half of practice for an all right day, but an inconsistent day. Correct. So you state he was up and down, but then state that Trey Lance struggled. So in your eyes, because I know I saw some people say he was 3 for 10, 2 for 9. That's terrible. That's not for me. That's not even if I'm being like I understand it's his first day back, so I'm gonna be cautious in how I say things, but anyone's first day back, 2 of 9 is terrible. A terrible look. 3 of 10 is a terrible look. So for me, you kind of state that he was all right with inconsistent, and you said he had up and down. What parts were because I know you just talked about the first 2 throws so far. So what parts made it become an up and down day? And as you get into the things, I want you to be able to explain and elaborate on how you saw it as up and down and why that was the case.
Correct. So the reason I say that it was an up and down day and a poor start, so those were Purdy's first 2 throws and his lone throws in the entire first 11-on-11 session. It was a run-heavy day to begin the day in 11-on-11s. Purdy began the day 0 for 2, but he started to settle in a little more when the 49ers operated more of the quick game.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry, but it looked like Joe Burrow might have tore his Achilles, bro.
Whoa, what? In OTA? I mean,
And right now, I just saw a video. He goes to scramble. He starts taking off to scramble, and he pulls up, and he's hopping on one leg, and he looks down at his foot. He looks down at his foot as if he got hit from behind on that ankle. That is the number one sign of an Achilles injury.
Let's see.
That is. I hope it is just a calf strain, but that does not look good at all.
Yeah, non-contact, and the. Oh, that is not good.
The reason why I say Achilles is right away. Richard Sherman, if you look at how he reacted and how he said it feels, every other player, when they have Achilles injuries, they say it feels like you get hit from behind like that. That is not good. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that is not good for the NFL in general. I hope he is okay. Prayers up to Joe Burrow. That is a serious, scary incident. I do not want it to be out for the season or anything like that. Prayers up to Joe Burrow. I did see that come on my timeline. I do have notification set for reporters, and I did see um, Miov tweeted out. So I wanted to say that real quick, but I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rohan, but you can go ahead and keep going, my man. Sorry about that.
Yeah. And again, when I say he bounced back, I'm not saying he had a good day. He did not. Like, that's pretty clear. He was rusty today. He struggled. But here's what I meant. So Purdy obviously starts 0 for 2, settles in a little bit during the 7-on-7 session, when the 49ers are operating a little bit of quick game. And so that's what you see, a little bit of a settle down. I believe he went 3 for 4 in his first 7-on-7 session, had one drop pass as the lone incompletion. I thought on one of his completions, he should have thrown the ball a little sooner. That was important, but he went 3 for 4 there. And then if you continue forward later on,
Wait, Purdy went 3 for 4.
Purdy went 3 for 4.
Okay, and this is 7-on-7s or 11s.
7-on-7s. But his best throw of the day came in on 7-on-7s. And this was one where it was on the second set. So that was his first set of plays in 7-on-7s. His second set of plays in 7-on-7s, he hit 2 for 3. He went 2 for 3. So 3 for 4, 2 for 3. He went 5 for 7 in 7-on-7s, one drop pass. But his best throw came in this session. He hit a 20-yard dart over the middle of the field to Brandon Ayuk, and it was a perfect placed ball. It was a high ball. He allowed Ayuk to go get it because Charvarius Ward was behind him. Ayuk rises up. He makes a great catch, and so that was his best ball of the day. Purdy also launched a couple of deep balls, one in 7-on-7s, one in 11-on-11s, had about 45 to 50 yards of 45 to 50 yards of air underneath them. Both were overthrown. Both were missed. Not necessarily close. I didn't like
So
this.
they weren't close at all.
I didn't like the first. I didn't like the second decision. The first one was they weren't close. First one was an overthrow to Juwan Jennings, and that one was a tight window. One of them, though, he had a crossing route open from Ronnie Bell, number 10. He had a crossing route open, decided to air it out. So different people will view that in different ways because it's a guy who hasn't aired it out at all, right? In a practice setting, looking to get that type of pass at least down underneath him for the first time. So people will, people won't necessarily crush that, or people will look to crush that more. So that's the context behind it. He aired 2 balls out. Both of them weren't necessarily close. They were overthrows, but they got a good amount of air on them, about 45 to 50 yards on both of those throws.
See, the thing is, like, those don't move me, even though, like, he's coming back from his injury early. Those don't move me because the way I see it is, in camp, you want to take shots, but you also want to hit. Like, obviously, one was you say it was a poor read, and two, if we're gonna be giving people quarterbacks brownie points for overthrows and so, and I'm not coming at you. I'm talking to everyone in
Right.
general. I'm not coming at you. Just want to let you know that if we're gonna be giving people brownie points for overthrows, then the Niners are Super Bowl champions a few years back for the overthrow. Like
Yeah.
that's just how. Like I'm keeping it exactly how I kept it with Jimmy, as I would with Brock and Trey. Like right. So for me, it's like okay, well, that's cool. He's kind of showing off the arm, but at the same time, it has me thinking. I wonder if he heard the narrative that he's a dink and dunk quarterback and then decided, you know what, I'm not a dink and dunk quarterback. Let me let it rip. So I'm curious.
Yeah.
So that was during 11-on-11s, right, or 7s?
This was all 7-on-7s, 5 of 7 and 7-on-7s. There were 2 deep passes, though, thrown overall. One was 11s, one was 7s.
Gotcha.
Continuing forward, so he had 2 sets of 7-on-7s. Continuing forward in the 11-on-11s, Purdy's first reps back in 11-on-11s. There were 2 runs. He got sacked on his third play. Drake Jackson beat Trent Williams on that play. Really nice bend, man. This guy's got some good bend. But we'll talk about him in a minute. Javon Hargrave closed in. He got the sack. And then his lone throw on that play or on this drive missed George Kittle wide, trying to hit him over the middle, missed George Kittle wide. And Austin Bryant had a good rep against Trent Williams on that one too. 0 for 3. His next set of plays, though, was arguably his best set of plays on the day. Hit Brandon Ayuk on a play action over the middle. It was a good throw in the window. This one was a crosser route. Ayuk was on the left side, working towards the middle of the field. Purdy hit it for about 15 yards in between the linebackers, like essentially in between the two linebackers. One was across the middle of the field. One was towards the left hash of the field. Hit it in between them. A good throw. Ayuk makes a good catch. That was a nice play. Christian McCaffrey ran on the next play, and then the play after that was probably his best throw of the day that ended up in an incompletion. Made a great throw, a layered throw over Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Brandon Ayuk, it's about 25 yards over the middle of the field. A great throw. Flanagan-Fowles outstretches his arm, tries to get it, just can't, and Ayuk dropped the ball. So that was a tough throw. The one drop that we had talked about, that was actually for Brock Purdy. So count that as you may. This is where I thought he had his turnaround in this set of plays here to wrap up the practice. He has one more set after this, but in this set of plays, this is where I thought the bounce back occurred because he had a nice throw in between the windows.
Just to be
yeah.
clear, because I know yesterday you stated that when you give grades, you do not include 7-on-7. So is this
Correct.
bounce back during 7-on-7s?
This is all 11s. This is all 11s.
Okay.
By the
So
way.
during at this point in 11s, he's what for what?
So he started 0 for 3. And then, so before this, he's 0 for 3. The pass that I talked about where he missed George Kittle wide, that is his first set of 11s, the lone pass when in the second 11-on-11 session. Then he goes 1 for 4 on the hit to Ayuk on the play action, 1 for 5 on the drop to Brandon Ayuk.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted everyone to keep knowing like the stats and stuff like that.
So he is 1 for 5 at this point in practice. Then on his next set of plays, he hits Brandon Ayuk on a short crosser. Nothing too much. It was a short play. Ayuk running. It probably gets you 3-4 yards. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw there immediately. Then on his next drop back, he is sacked again. A very similar play to one of his original sacks. Drake Jackson, solid bend, flushes Purdy inside the pocket, and then Javon Hargrave cleaned it up and got the sack there again. That was so the first throw was his lone throw of this set of plays. Then on his final set of plays, got sacked one more time by Kerry Hyder. This was a play that he had really nowhere to go. Ends up throwing this away. I didn't count it because he got sacked. But it was a play where they implemented the third string receivers with the first string defense. Chris Conley and Tay Martin were both playing against the top level cornerbacks. Both of them slipped out of their breaks on what seemed to be curl routes. Purdy should have thrown this ball away maybe a little earlier, but didn't really have the time as the sack occurred. Gets sacked here on the play. And then his final throw of the day was the bomb that I said, the second bomb. He overthrew Deebo Samuel on a who had a step on Charvarius Ward, overthrew Deebo Samuel on that pass. So my apologies. He actually ends 2 for 7 on the day, not 3 for 7, 2 for 7 on the day. You could count the 2 throwaways. I counted them as sacks. So around 2 for 7 to 2 for 9. But that's the context behind his plays.
I totally, I don't know if it's like based off, because when it's funny, because when me and Rohan talk like this, like I could see what he's explaining because we write notes usually exactly the same. Like that's what's funny about it is like with the times that we're at camp together, like I look at his notes or like we share notes and it's like literally exactly low key word for word, like on how we do it. Like we don't put a full sentence. It's like 13 across right. Like it's like kind of like a different language, right? So I understand what you're saying, but like I don't.
This is how my notebook looks like.
Yeah, it's not complete sentences at all. It's not even words. It's just gibberish. Literally, like it's a bunch of things put together, and I don't even know. It's kind of like have you guys ever seen Transformers? And all those letters are on the board. That's literally what it is. So for me, the way I see it is, or where it sounds like is, I don't see that as a bounce back.
So the bounce back portion again. I'm trying to tweet as quick as I can. The bounce back portion was the middle. That's where I was saying the middle of that middle portion of the practice was the bounce back to me. But then I talked about the inconsistency because he ends the day on an inconsistent manner with the incompletion of Deebo Samuel. So that's where I'm trying to get with my tweet. Correct.
So that second part of the day, is that 7s or 11s?
All of this is 11s.
So okay. So so he had 3 sets of 11s, right? The
second set of
11s.
So yeah, so he had the 0 for 2 was in the 0 for 2 was the first set of 11s. Then it was 7s, and then he finished the day 2 for 7, so 2 for 5 in the second set of 11s.
Ooh, even that to me, that's 40%. That's a failing grade. Like to me, if the way I see it, and the way I'm trying to be as um not I don't want to come off sounding like I'm just bashing Brock Purdy because that's not what I want to do. Obviously, it was his first day of back at camp. So the way I look at that is any quarterback, whether that was Jimmy last year, if it was Jimmy or Trey, they're getting trashed. Like back in for me, I'm like, hey, what's the difference? Like realistically, we don't know what our quarterback situation is yet, and for me, that's a bad first start. Whether it's healthy or not, coming off of surgery or not, that's a bad first start. So for me, I don't really see it as a coming back up. I think even though he had 2 for 5 and was better than 0 for 2, it's still not good. So for me, I'm curious to hear on who else looked good because I know Darnold. Everyone said Darnold was the quarterback of the day. So I'm curious to hear what you thought about Darnold.
The one reason that I think that you can make the argument for Darnold being the quarterback of the day is because he was the only quarterback that didn't have a boneheaded play. Purdy had the pick six. Lance had the throw into double coverage that started it all. But here's the rundown for Sam Darnold. So Trey Lance was the first quarterback to be QB2. And for real quick before you guys get confused, the rep count was very interesting today. Brock Purdy took every single first quarterback one rep. He took every rep with the first team. Sam Darnold and Trey Lance equally split the second team reps with the second team offense. However, Brandon Allen took all of the third team reps. So when I say that they equally split the second team reps, that doesn't mean one was the second teamer, one was the third teamer, and then vice versa. No, that means that one was not on the field for a set of plays while the other was the second team quarterback. And then they flipped
Crazy.
on the next set of plays. Very interesting. That's why Sam Darnold and Trey Lance both got limited reps today, and their numbers are equal to Brandon Allen. That's the reason, which was kind of interesting for me today.
That's terrible. To be honest, I'm gonna be straight up. That's terrible because one, Brandon Allen most likely should not be on this team when we break the 53-man roster.
Yeah.
And on top of that is if you're having a quarterback sit and having a quarterback, whether it's I don't know if Sam Darnold or Trey Lance are the ones who sat for 30 minutes of the day, but I did get a text message that one of the quarterbacks was out for 20 to 30 minutes during the practice. If you're having a quarterback sit that
That might
long,
have been Trey Lance. Yeah.
you're constantly your arm, you have to keep it warm. You like, for example, who's ever seen a quarterback during a regular game on the sideline? What are they doing? If it's a long drive for the quarterback, they go get a ball and they start throwing to keep that arm loose. So I think it's extremely arrogant on the coaching staff's part to be getting Brandon Allen the same amount of reps as the other two quarterbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. But starting off with Sam Darnold, he did not play for a little bit because how it goes: first team offense, second team offense, third team offense, first team offense, second team offense. So it was Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Brandon Allen. Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold got his first reps of in the 11-on-11 session on the fifth set of plays. So Sam Darnold was QB2 on the fifth set of plays. Jordan Mason got the first run there. He took it to the left side. Then Sam Darnold's first throw was a completion. It was about a 10 to 12 yard out route to Deebo Samuel. Thought that ball could have been a little more on the inside, but still a solid play. Good catch by Deebo. Deommodore Lenoir was in coverage there. That was his lone throw in the first set of 11-on-11s. Then comes 7-on-7s. Darnold started off with a hit to Deebo Samuel over the middle, then followed that up with a throw to Tyrion Davis-Price in the flat, and then a nice play to Danny Gray, a strong catch. This was one where I was questioning the throw a little bit, but he fitted in a tight window. It was one of those plays in between the second and third windows. Danny Gray was the receiver. Darnold fired a ball in there. Gray made a phenomenal catch, held on, and it was between the second and third windows. Darnold fitted in, solid ball there. And then Darnold followed that up with a 7-yard out route to Chris Conley. So he went 4 for 4 in his first set of 7-on-7s. Again, 7-on-7s. Remember, no defensive line, no offensive line. Starting off, and then again, it's a huge break because then it's Brandon Allen, then it's Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, Brandon Allen, or Trey Lance. And then what they did is They started the 11 on 11s after the second team with Trey Lance. And so Brock Purdy started, and then Trey Lance started again. So Sam Darnold had a huge layoff here. Then it was Brandon Allen. Then it was Brock Purdy. Sam Darnold finally comes back. His second throw of the day is probably like an hour into this scrimmage portion.
That's
But
wild.
his second throw of the day threw an incompletion to who's 86? I do not know who number 86 is off
That's
the
Tay
top of my
Martin,
head.
I thought.
Yes. No. Tay Martin. Yeah. Tay Martin's 86, not 83. Sorry. Sneed, Tay Martin got it mixed up real quick. Threw an incompletion to Tay Martin. Tay Martin dropped the ball there. So that's his first incompletion of the day. Tyrion Davis-Price took the next run, and then Sam Darnold fired an incompletion to Danny Gray. Not a great ball, too wide. It was great coverage though. Thought there could have been PI called. This was on an in breaking route about 15 yards down the field. Thought there could have been PI called, but a good cover there on Danny Gray. And regardless, the ball was a little too wide. So Darnold then is 1 for 3 at this stage. By the way, this is 11 on 11s. 1 for 3 at this stage and 11 on 11s. Darnold then it's interesting. So they go Allen, Purdy, and then because Lance got 2 back-to-backs, Darnold now gets a back-to-back. He comes in, and his first throw in his second in this set of 11 on 11s finds Brandon Ayuk. This was his best throw and arguably the best throw of the day. Hit Brandon Ayuk on a deep pass for 35 yards. Could have potentially led him for a touchdown, but it's a tough throw to make. There was a little bit of pressure on the play and caught Ayuk, who had snuck behind the defense. 35 yards on this play, the biggest throw of the day, about 45 yards on air. Darnold there, 2 for 4. His next incompletion, it was a poor throw, incompletion to Danny Gray. He tried to go downfield again, but telegraphed this pass. Samuel Womack read it and essentially had a good break on the play. It was a somewhat of a curl, but it was a little bit of a curl or an in-break here. It was one of those type of routes, and or sorry, not a curl, a comeback or an in-breaker, one of those type of routes. But Womack breaks on the play, and it becomes an incompletion. So Darnold then is 2 for 5, and that is where he ended the practice.
Okay, so it sounds like Sam Darnold was consistently inconsistent the last 2 days. If that makes sense, because yesterday he was inconsistent, and then it sounds like today he was inconsistent, but
a little better than yesterday for sure, because yesterday he wasn't that great.
And but like, so his inconsistent today, or a little, even though it was a little bit better, was better than the rest, which wasn't good for the rest. If that makes sense. And so he was what for on the day for on 11s, 3
2
of 5?
for 5, 2 for 5 with 1 drop.
Okay, so he was 2 for 5 on, and that was 11s, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And then in 7s he was 4 for 4, or I believe whatever I just said, 4 for 4, I believe.
Yeah, 4 for 4. So yeah, so it makes sense because he would be you said 6 for whatever it was, 6 for 9 or something like that on the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was Sam Darnold. The reason that people ranked him high, he had a nice deep pass over there to Brandon Ayuk. Had another nice pass to who was it? He had another nice play on the day to, I got it right here. Forgetting the receiver, but had another nice play and then also had 1 drop that he was costed for. So that's where people thought Sam Darnold had a good day. Obviously, I don't involve 7-on-7s in my grades, but Sam Darnold did have a solid 7-on-7 day as well.
I'm very curious on your grades today, because the grades, they should be pretty low.
They're pretty low. Yeah, they're pretty low. But Trey Lance is the 3rd quarterback on my list today. So let's start off. His first throw was probably his worst throw and the second worst throw of any quarterback today. The worst, obviously, being Purdy's pick 6. But his first throw of the day threw an incompletion to Juwan Jennings. Samuel Womack was all over it, and this one was a near interception. It was a tip pass and a dropped interception. I believe Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles was the one that picked it. This was one crossing over the middle of the field. Lance telegraphed it a bit, which allowed Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles to step back a bit, and Flanagan-Fowles had a good tip on it. Could have been an interception there, but a great covered play. Steve Wilkes made him do push-ups afterwards for the lack of the
I like that. I like that on coach's part.
But so Lance started 0 for 1, and that was his lone throw in the first 11-on-11 session, just like Darnold had only 1 throw in the 11-on-11 session to begin. Then comes 7-on-7s. Lance has a bit of a break. His first throw in 7-on-7s is to Braden Willis in the flat. too high though, and he led him too much. That was an incompletion. Not a great placement there from Lance. Next throw, a very quick check down to Cameron Latu in the flat. And then his final throw in this stage was a quick out to Braden Willis. The ball was a little low. Willis, though, still made the catch. It was catchable. He caught the ball and he turned in, solid run, but a quick out. So a lot of quick hitters from Trey Lance. Ends up being 2 for 3 here in the 7-on-7 stretch.
That's not bad.
Gets a second set, or sorry, didn't get a second 7. That was the final set of 7-on-7s. Then comes 11-on-11s again. Remember, Lance missed his first throw in 11-on-11s. His next throw, an incompletion on a play action play to Tyrion Davis-Price. This one was a drop. I thought this one was the Tyrion Davis-Price drop, so it was actually Lance who was the one who threw this. Marcelino McCrary ball was there. If Davis-Price caught it, it's a 0-yard gain, but Davis-Price tried to catch it and turn upfield to dodge McCrary ball, ends up dropping the ball here. Then Lance's first completion comes to the right side, hit Jordan Mason. This is his best throw of the day. Hit Jordan Mason to the right side as Mason was running up the field. Got probably 8 yards before the throw and probably maybe 10 yards-ish after the throw. Solid play there, a good throw. And that one was interesting because Javon Kinlaw there got a good get off and then just bull rush Jalen Moore. So that was an interesting one because Kinlaw bursted out to the outside on that play after starting from the interior. But that was Lance's first 2 throws in the second set, and then he got one more set. He ended the day, I believe. Yeah, he ended the day in 11-on-11s. First play was a quick 3-step drop, just a quick out route to Danny Gray. Probably gets you 3 to 4 yards there. Tyrion Davis-Price took the next play. He ran it a short run up the middle. And then his final play of the day, Trey Lance, that is, was a rollout and an incompletion to Willie Snead. Lance was nearly sacked, rolled out, and threw the ball to Willie Snead. But that ball, just tight coverage there from Ambry Thomas, and he broke that pass up a little wide.
Ambry Thomas? What?
Yeah, I know. That was interesting. But tough play to make, incompletion. Ambry Thomas broke it up, and that was the final play of the day.
So it sounds like Trey's day wasn't as bad as initially the way it sounded, right? Because he had a drop pass in there, so he would have, if that pass is dropped.
Correct. Him and Darnold. I did not realize that Lance also had a drop pass. You see, when I'm thinking about it, when I'm tweeting, the drop passes get scrambled. There were more than I write them all down. There were more than I counted. Him and Darnold both had a drop pass on the day, and so yeah. So you can take that as it may. The reason that I
was
say
it a clear? So I'm gonna ask this
go for
question because drops are tricky. Was it a clear drop? Like
the Lance one
drop?
or the that one is
Lance.
It's a little tough because McCrary ball is breaking in. Tough to see if he got a deflection on the play because he celebrated after the play, but he was breaking in. The way that I viewed it, I thought it was a dropped pass from Tyrion Davis-Price, but it would have been a completion for 0 yards had it been caught.
Okay, well, defensive players celebrate even if the pass is overthrown.
Right.
So defensive players are awkward or when they celebrate sometimes. So, what about Darnold? Was his like a clear drop?
Yeah. The Tay Martin one was a clear drop.
Clear drop.
That was an open pass, and that was a clear drop.
So for both of those quarterbacks, it doesn't sound like their days were as bad as it sounds initially, right? Because like when you go through it initially, to me it sounds like Brock Purdy was a lot worse than Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. At least from what I got from what you were saying. Like I wasn't there. Obviously, my eyes aren't able to be on the plays and everything, so it's a little different. But it sounds like that Sam Darnold and Trey Lance were much better than Brock Purdy. 2 for 9 is terrible. 2 for 7 is terrible. If we're only grading off of 11-on-11s, he was terrible. Like I'm just saying how it is. 2 for 9, I believe is like the percentage on that. If we're being real, is I think like 20%.
Yeah, it's 28%.
Yeah,
that was his good percentage. So the way that I grade it, right? The way that I look at it, I look at the quality of throws, I look at the depth of throws, and I look at how each throw transpired. The reason that Lance isn't as high on my list as the other 2 quarterbacks is because all of his throws, including the incompletions, except for that first throw, which was a near interception, were within 5 to 10 yards of the line of scrimmage.
So that's where I'm gonna stop you because last year fans, media, I'm not saying you in particular, but we're saying they wanted to see him work on that.
Correct.
We're
And
seeing
I
him
mean,
do
that's
it.
fair. Like, here's what I'll say. Yesterday, I gave Trey Lance a B, right? For very similar throws. But the reason is I thought that there was avenues for him to stretch the field because there were also avenues for the other two quarterbacks to stretch the field. Yesterday, I thought Trey Lance worked very well with what the defense gave him. There was only 1 to 2 plays that I really felt that he could have potentially pushed the ball in those, and the rest of them I thought he was money with the throws that he could have made. And so that's the way that I look at it. As for today, I thought that there was more on the field that he could have taken. Again, it's tough when you're playing with the backups compared to the starters. If you have Brandon Ayuk out there, you understand
You're
that
letting it rip. Yeah.
you have a comfort zone in Brandon Ayuk, right? So it's tough to play with the starters, tough to play with the backups. It's super subjective. That's the way it is. My goal, I'm trying to make it as objective as possible. I didn't think either of the three had a spectacular day by any means because there were clear mistakes. But I thought that the highs of both Darnold and Purdy were higher because of the bigger throws that they made and were able to accomplish. And that's why I have them slightly higher. When you see my grades, they're all going to be within a letter grade of each other, and they're all going to be pretty damn low. That's the way that I look at it.
Because it's just interesting because, like everyone keeps saying, like, and this has been a big talk on 49ers football is if Trey Lance could hit the little simple things, then he could be able to run Kyle's offense because he has the ability to hit the deep things and the ability to hit the intermediate. We know he's capable of doing that. His big question mark has always been, can he do these simple things? Sounds like he's
Yeah.
doing the simple things, and he still sounds like he's not doing enough. So that's, to me, it's interesting. I'm curious. But what players defensively stood out that aren't, like, obviously we know Fred Warner stands out every day. We know Drake Jackson, you were saying he stood out. Any other guys that stood out defensively to you?
That's the good part about practice because unfortunately, when we have to talk a little more negatively about certain players after a little more disappointing performances, there's a positive on the other hand. And so today, I thought the defense looked really good. I mean, Samuel Womack's a guy who I thought was in coverage a couple of times and played well. The defensive line, though, is the one that really shocked me because I'm not expecting, especially when Trent Williams is back, I'm not expecting, Austin Bryant and Drake Jackson to have their way, especially when you look. Go search up a picture of Austin Bryant and search
Dude,
up a
like a
picture of Trent Williams. Austin
it's
Bryant is the thinnest defensive lineman you're going to see. He is just a lanky defensive lineman, but he's got something to him, man, because he was able to make a play on Trent Williams today that would resulted in one of those sacks. He got a sack yesterday, was able to make a play today, and Drake Jackson, that bend is real. Like, I don't know about his pass rushing moves. That's something we'll see with pads on, and that's something we'll see during the season. That is probably what's going to define how successful of a pass rusher he is this year. But Drake Jackson's bend is there because Trent Williams has a low base, but with a big tackle like Trent Williams, it's tough to get lower than a guy who can bend under your arms. And that's what
so
Drake Jackson did
he beat Trent.
twice.
That's special.
Again, maybe
Because
maybe out of 15 reps, right? But still
hey, but
twice.
hey, but the thing is though, is Nick Bosa usually gets Trent out of 15 reps like two, 4 times, maybe five on a good day. Like, so that's beating Trent in general is special. So that's cool to see.
Austin
Shout out to
Bryant beat Trent once too.
that's crazy, man. Hey, maybe Trent is trying to give them some confidence, which I like, but I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Shout out to Thomas. Was good, y'all. New subscriber after seeing you on John Chapman's channel. I appreciate you for tuning
Hey,
in, my man.
appreciate it, man. But
Shout out to Mariah. I'm just gonna go through a quick shout
go
outs real
for it.
quick. Shout out to Mariah. Shout out to Waveware in the house. I see a lot of conversation, Greg Cannis, on the offensive line. So I have to ask the question: is how's the offensive line looking? Obviously, we're in a situation where right tackle needs to be a key factor. How does the offensive line look right now? In complete backups and everything.
Now, the one portion of the game was taken away a little bit because obviously the eyes were on the quarterback. So, not much is tweeted about the running backs. That first stretch, the offense dominated. That first stretch, the first set of plays where Brock Purdy was the quarterback,
In the
the
run game?
lone in the run game, the lone miss on that first drive was Brock Purdy's incompletion, I believe, to Ross Dwelly. Everything else, Elijah Mitchell looks juiced, man. And I mean, me and Brad were joking today. It's like TDP. TDP had a great day yesterday. it seems like Elijah Mitchell and Jordan Mason now got they got a little fire under them today. Jordan Mason trucked a guy today.
I don't
Just
like
as no
that. See,
pads.
I don't like the Jordan
I
Mason
understand.
truck.
I understand. But like the
Like
defender
I get it's fun. Like I like you like
the defender
obviously it's
also
fun to
looked to
watch,
initiate
but
contact a little bit, but I know you don't like that, but like Jordan Mason and
mm-mm.
Elijah Mitchell were running extra physical today. There's obviously an injury risk without pads, but it seemed like they have a little more juice. Elijah Mitchell was a standout today. He's going to be on my standouts list later today.
Nice,
Elijah
good.
Mitchell he looked fresh, man.
If he's
Because
healthy, he's good, man.
he's a guy who can move well and also hit the hole hard. And so, that combination of things, because his initial burst, I would say is a little better than Jordan Mason's. And that's the one thing I'd probably give him over Mason, that initial burst to get into the hole, because Mason runs hard and he's also fairly fast, but Mitchell's initial burst is something different. And it was on display today. And it wasn't only to the left side on that first drive. He had a run to the right side. It's these cutback lanes that are able to originate and things like that. And Christian McCaffrey, he was out there too. Christian McCaffrey will do Christian McCaffrey things. And it's tough to gauge some of the runs, right? Because
Yeah,
normally I stop the yard count when there's a defender that's right there. But they can break these tackles. You don't know if these defenders are going to have missed tackles or not. So it's hard to gauge these runs. But I thought the run game looked solid to begin. McCaffrey had a good cutback run to begin. He also had a good run to the left side, and then Mitchell had a good cutback to the left side where he cut to the middle. I thought Mitchell looked good today. Offensive line was up and down. Offensive line, I'll say, was up and down more so in the pass protection area. It was up and down at certain points, But also in the run game, there were a lot of runs that get stuffed near the line of scrimmage. Some of the stuff wasn't working, but I think that's what you're going to see until pads come on. That's really where I'm going to fully focus on that portion of the game. But I do say Elijah Mitchell was a standout for me. And one other standout I want to give out, second guy, back-to-back day.
Danny Gray.
No, he's on the offensive side. I was going to go to the defense. Back-to-back days, though. Javon Kinlaw looks fresh. And that get-off for Javon Kinlaw looking solid. At worst, he can be a solid run defender for this team if those injury issues, can reside. But Kinlaw's looking fresh. And
It's
that's important because he's getting some meaningful reps.
and then that's one of the ones where you hold your breath because you want him to stay healthy. You don't really want you're excited about it, but you don't know how to report it because if he gets injured, and then it kind of sucks to do. But the reason why I'm gonna explain why I don't like the players, and I wasn't trying to stop you and make it sound like you were hyping it up or anything. But the reason why I don't like it is because one, with no pads on, you're putting yourself and your teammate at risk of being injured.
Mhm.
So for me, I don't like it at all. Whether defensive players shooting down the lane, or whether a running back shooting down the lane and you're trying to pop each other. To me, it's you don't do that to your teammates until the pads are on. Even when the pads are on, you kind of have to be smart. I understand if you want to run each other over, but you want to be smart. I don't like the ability where you're trying to win a job, so you're running each other over. Hey, you also have to understand that when you're winning your job, that's going to be your teammate during the season. If you hurt him and he's out for the year, you just made the team worse. So be smart. Don't do stuff. And I guarantee you, Kyle will probably tell them in the when they watch film later, hey, that's stupid. What are you doing? Because Kyle is very big on trying to keep his guys healthy this year. Rohan, how did the corners look? I know Jedi asked Womack. I know you stated Womack earlier. Who are the top three corners in your opinion outside of? And the reason why I asked top three corners outside of Demo and Charvarius Ward is because I think that's where the battle truly is.
Right. And Womack was a guy who, when I was talking standouts just a minute ago, he was the first guy I mentioned. And I briefly mentioned him, but I think he's looking good. He was in coverage on a couple of those, near interception type of plays. I think he's looking good. He hasn't gotten burnt yet. He hasn't gotten significantly beaten. And the interesting part is he's back in a little bit of a different territory because he's on the outside. He's fully on the outside. He's the top backup cornerback on the outside. He's not playing at all in the nickel right now, and that's an interesting portion or an interesting part of practice.
I'm trying to figure out. I'm sorry because I know you guys are probably like, what the heck is Marco doing? I'm trying to understand this quote or this tweet from David Lombardi from the Athletic. He tweeted Brock Purdy says he has leftover physical limitations following his elbow surgery. He thanks all of the professionals involved in the surgery and rehab. I don't know. I don't get what he's trying to say. Can you help me with that, Rohan?
He is probably saying that there are still some limitations that he still has from the surgery. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Because
Like
that's what I kind of read it
physically,
as, but I
physically
don't.
he's limited, and I would assume this alludes to him not being able to throw for 3 consecutive days. It's only 2 out of the 3 days. Maybe that's a part of the physical limitations that is involved. So that's what I'm thinking about.
I hope it's not like physical limitations where his arm strength isn't as strong as he thought it was going to be, because that was where it gets worrisome.
I
Um,
gotta say though, Brock's arm strength was didn't look off, and I mean I think he also purposely looked to throw those deep balls on some of them, and
to
both
show
were
off,
overthrows. But
it's the dink and he heard. I'm telling you, he heard the dink and dunk conversation. These
yeah,
players hear the way that dink and dunk conversation blew up. He heard it. I know he did,
mhm,
because the reason why I know he did is because his quarterback coach, one of the guys he works with in that area. I'm not going to say quarterback coach because it's one of the guys part of that team. They liked one of the tweets about dink and dunk, so I know he heard
yeah.
it. I know he saw it.
Marco, you
So
might not like my last standout though, Mr. Jake Moody, man, Jake
man,
Moody.
get out of here. I mean, I think
So
kickers
because
are
like
fabulous, but
I put him on my players to watch list for today because he didn't kick yesterday. It was all Zane Gonzalez. Moody got 6 kicks today, drilled all 6. Most of them were in the 30 range. He had a 33, 238s, two I believe in the 43 range. But his biggest one was a 51 yarder that ended practice. He probably made that with probably like 8, 10 yards to go. So he's got a big leg, that's for sure.
so we're at the point of talking kickers, man. Like I
I
get
just
it. He's
I
he's a
had to
third
put
round
that in
pick.
because I mean I got to show love where love's supposed to be given.
I get he's a third round pick and all, but we're talking Jake Moody, man. Like Jake Moody. Anyone else before we get out of here, Rohan? Because I know you and I both have other things that we have to get to. Any other players stand out or anything that you want to highlight from today's practice outside of obviously the quarterback situations? That's the junk. That's like not the junk, like
Yeah.
the majority of the topic, because we're trying to figure out who's winning what. I think, and I'm not saying, and shout out to I don't know the KVSKWN. I don't think I'm not saying I don't think special teams are vital to team success. It's just talking about kickers is just like cool. You made 3 kicks out of your kick, like that's cool. I'm expecting him to do well. He's a good kicker. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying. I think, in my opinion, I think the punter is more important than your fourth string quarterback. And I'm glad you didn't talk Brandon Allen. That's why I think Mitch Wisnowski is more important than Brandon Allen on this roster. I'd rather talk
Yeah.
Mitch Wisnowski than Brandon Allen, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also there. Some other things that I'll say, just to clarify, like again, when I'm tweeting things about the quarterback position, don't take it as if I'm going with one way, one quarterback or another. That's just I'm just thinking, I'm just tweeting exactly what I think at the moment. Hope I clarified everything that I said today as to where I thought, where my thoughts stemmed from with the quarterback competition today and different things. And the other thing I'm looking for, well, one day, a lot of people will overreact to one day. Consistency. I want to see how you stack days upon days. Now, we will not be out there until Sunday because tomorrow's practice is limited. Media will not be, or sorry, it's not open to the public. It's only open to the media. Saturday is an off day, so we will be back only on Sunday. But there was a lot of things there. Did I think Purdy had a great day? No. Did I think Darnold had a good day? No. Did I think Lance had a good day? No. But there was reasons for why I favored some days over others, and I'm sure that that'll also change as performances continue to roll in later on. Last thing I want to say, probably talking about the 49ers. Um, I don't know how do I phrase this? Like like I said, like everything you gotta take in a way with a grain of salt. Like everything because of the way that practices originated. No pads. It's not that many throws. It's a lot of run game concepts. And so that's the way you look at it. It's important to give the authentic um, reaction to what actually happened, but also important to value certain things over other things. And I think that that's the way I'll leave off today's show.
That's a great way to end it. But before we go, I have to ask you, your grades. Give me a grade for Brock, Sam Darnold, and Lance, and then we'll call it a show.
So I think I have Sam Darnold to have the highest grade today. I would give Sam Darnold a C. That is my highest grade of the day. As for Brock Purdy and Trey Lance, it hovers around a C minus to a D plus. That's the way that I'd give it. I probably favor towards a C minus for Trey Lance, maybe around there, maybe a C. Yeah, so around a C minus is what I'd say for Trey Lance and Brock Purdy.
Okay, so if you're, man, see, I'm just still shocked on, but I get you're including other reasons on Brock's grade, but for me,
I
if
just
I was
think that
there,
some of the throws that he made were some of the strongest throws of the entire day.
but then were they completed or not? Like I don't know, like to
One
me,
was a drop and one was completed. So like that stretch to Ayuk, that's the way. Like I'm not going to blame the quarterback for drop throws, right? And so
no,
that's
you
that's
can't,
another
you
thing.
can't.
So I
But the
can't
thing
blame
is,
the
when you're
quarterback for drop throws. But again, like you are right. And
But when
maybe
you're
it
two
is
of
me.
seven and 11s, it's kind of like to me. And when you're 2 of 7 of 11, that to me, that's usually a D minus F range for me, like F plus if there is an F plus. Like that's where I normally like. If I was there, that's probably the grade I would have given. For
And
me,
maybe it's me, because it's Purdy's first stage, just like I did
and then I think,
at the early
and I
stage.
love, and I like that you cleared that up in the sense of how earlier you were explaining how why you gave it, and I thought that you had a good reason. You backed up your thing, so that was a great way to end it. I don't want to keep going on a tangent and us have that conversation. We already had that earlier in the show. But Rohan, shout out to you, my man. I appreciate you for the great work that you do. Thanks for hopping on with me. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone in the comments. Any last comments, Rohan?
No, that's all. Guys, everybody in the chat, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for subscribing. And stay tuned because this content isn't going to evaporate anytime soon. Me and Marco, we go live a lot. So make sure you guys stay tuned in for the latest with the 49ers.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your guys' day.